Good day and welcome to Gen Con live streaming. We are here with Will and Dallas. Yes.
Boom.
And they are from Atomic Mass Games.
Yep.
It's a long name.
I know.
And they have an amazing game for us today, which if you are a big Marvels fan, then this is going to very much pique your interest. Would you gentlemen like to explain a little bit about the game? Or at least
Are we Rochambeauing to see who has to do it? All right.
Sucker.
Oh, so cool. All right. Can't believe I work with you.
I can only imagine.
So we're Atomic Mass Games. We're a brand new studio that formed, and we've partnered with Asmodee. And we had the fortune to be able to work on a new hobby tabletop miniatures game called Marvel Crisis Protocol. So for those who might be unfamiliar with what a hobby miniatures game is, it's basically a game where you get to assemble and paint all of the miniatures that you use. You build terrain boards and terrain, you place it on the tabletop like we kind of have done here, and then you use the miniatures to reenact the battle that occurs in the comic books and all of that stuff. So it's a very fun and kind of robust hobby experience because you get to do so much with the products. And it just comes to life on the tabletop in a really big way. So that's kind of the overview of like what a hobby miniatures game is. And you want to talk a little bit about the miniatures themselves, Mr. Sculpting Director?
Where we're at?
Yeah, why not? Let's rock.
Oh, you sculpted these?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just direct the sculpts.
Oh, that's still part of the process.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, miniatures games are always important to me and Will here, and we've been doing it for so many years, and it was such an awesome experience and opportunity to bring these characters, these Marvel characters from the comic books, just to life. So we've really been pushing and trying to achieve like those classic and like over the top and dramatic like narrative poses, and like work with our sculptors and the production to create like really high quality, awesome miniatures for your collection.
Which one is your favorite? I know a father has a favorite child.
No. They're all doctors. All my children are
They're
doctors.
all doctors.
Fantastic.
Like, I like everybody, right? I mean, I love the Red Skull and I love Ultron, but you love Iron Man and Captain America because they inspire you and all that stuff. So I think I'm in love with everything.
I'm glad that Captain America and Iron Man inspire you and not Red Skull and Ultron, because then I'd be a little afraid.
I mean, look, if there's one thing about Red Skull, he's a bad guy, right? But, I mean, he's tenacious.
Yeah.
He's
he
clever.
He doesn't quit.
He's really smart. I mean, there's a good trait.
Oh, you are a very proud papa.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like that.
They're all doctors. They all got PhDs.
So, to talk more about the game specifically, now that we've kind of discussed what the miniatures are, what you get to do in Marvel Crisis Protocol is really cool. You get to assemble a team of characters from across the Marvel Universe, and because we love all of our children equally, apparently, you are allowed to mix and match.
Have you seen this dumpster?
You are allowed to mix and match heroes and villains on your team. So what you do effectively is you build your Marvel Dream Team, and then you come to a table, and you're going to dynamically create a mission that you're going to have to do, and you're going to play with another player. There are multiplayer variants that will be coming out and stuff that you can do as well. But typically a standard game is 1v1.
Okay.
So Dallas and I would come to the table. We would have our team of 10 characters. We would then create a scenario on the fly. And this is one of the unique things about the game for miniatures games, is that the scenario generation and the squad that you're going to play with on the tabletop are all made like before the game starts, but not before you come to the table. And so this is a little different. In a traditional hobby miniatures game, typically what you do is you sit down at home and you build your giant army or your skirmish force, and you say, I'm going to take this guy, and I'm going to take this girl, and I'm going to take this thing, and then you just come with a set list, and that's what you play with.
Okay.
For us, what we really wanted to emphasize was the idea that you come with a set amount of things that you can pull from, but you don't necessarily know exactly what you're going to be doing. So part of the strategy of the game is being able to kind of adjust on the fly, and you get that chance to see what your opponent has picked in terms of his scenario versus what you picked for your scenario.
Okay.
So we have these things called crisis cards. So there are two different types of crisis. There's secure, which is like go and hold a point.
Okay.
So for example, our secure here is these extremist consoles. So these are basically consoles that have the Extremis virus in them. The Extremis virus in the comic books has miraculous healing properties. It can make you like beautiful supermodel, like all this crazy stuff, right? So we have these consoles that are emitting Extremis. So we want to control those because there happens to be some riots that are sparking over the Extremis consoles. And then we have cosmic cube fragments. So cosmic cubes are untold relics of power. This one happens to be broken up, and all the pieces are everywhere. So we, of course, need our teams to go and collect the pieces so that we control the cosmic cube.
And that's the extraction type.
Yep. And so this is an extraction type. So whereas we're going to try to control the secure points by standing near them and fighting off our opponents so that they can't control them in turn, the cosmic cube fragments, we're actually going to go run. We're going to have our characters pick them up, and then we're going to try to hold on to them for the course of the game so that we can score points.
Okay.
Every scenario, of course, is made of these two types. So, for example, in our little demo game here, it's assumed that Dallas and I chose, like Dallas chose the cosmic cube for his extraction, and I chose the secure extraction, Riot Spark over Extremis 3.0. You come to the table with multiples of these cards. So the idea is that you never quite know exactly what the mission's going to be. You only know what you brought. So you kind of have half the information.
Okay.
And you randomly draw them, and then you select one out of your hand, you play it face down, you flip it over. At that point, we now know what our mission is.
Okay.
So
These
now,
two form a scenario.
Yep. So now that we know what our mission is, from our two crisis cards, that we have to control Extremis consoles and we have to grab cosmic cube fragments, and we see what the table looks like, we're going to look at our roster of individuals, of our characters, and we're going to say, okay, we get 17 threat value, which is the number here in the circle, to build our squad. So you're never going to use all 10 of your characters in a single game. What you're going to wind up doing is you're going to draw from your 10-character roster to create a squad of approximately 4 to 5 characters. There are certain builds where you can take like all the big guys and have 3, and there are sometimes where you can take some of the weaker, more numerous troops, like you take a Black Widow and a Hawkeye, and the less superpowered superhumans,
Right.
and have 6.
So it's like I hate to say it, but like an organized sport. You have your team,
Yep.
but then you have your backup that
Correct.
kind of
Yep.
sits on the sidelines in
Yeah.
case you need to bring
Yep.
them out.
Yep.
Awesome.
And these
so-
can be different values. So these are both 17, but some of these are 20 and some of these are 15.
Yep.
So I might look at what his roster is and see that he brought a lot of big guys, and I just know Will really likes to bring the big guys. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna
Come with
pick
the thunder.
I'm gonna pick the 15-point one, and then choose 15 points to kind of force his hand a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe.
So
Who
that might
knows?
make me have to reconsider which characters I would bring, and also based on the scenarios, there are different levels of objectives that you might have to control. Some of them have 3 across the center of the board. Some, like a full cosmic cube setup. We're doing kind of a quick in-game tutorial right now.
Right.
But like the cosmic cube has 5 different objectives that you have to go grab.
Okay.
So if you wind up with that 15 points, that means there's going to be less characters on the table. Versus if you pick 20, there's going to be a lot more characters potentially on the table. So you can kind of like manipulate your strategy and your tactics based on that too. So there's a lot of player choice.
Okay.
And one of the really big things overall with the missions and how they're formed is that we really wanted to dive into the character and the stories of Marvel. Like, combat is important. The game is about fighting and doing super cool things like unibeams and shield throws and cosmic cube blasts. But at the end of the day, we didn't want the game to be about fighting for fighting's sake.
Right.
The thing that defines Marvel for us, I've been reading the comics since I was like 6 years old and my mom handed me a Spider-Man comic, is not the fights, but it's the story, right?
Right.
the
It's not a war
characters.
game. It's
Right.
it's got more
And
depth.
so it was really important to us that the entire game evoke that feel. We want you as you play for every action on the table to feel like a comic panel on a page, right? You are telling a story with your opponent / friend, right? And you're doing this together. And for us, the win was when the Hulk picks up a building and smashes it into your Iron Man. If you and your opponent high five because that's just so awesome, then we've done our job right.
Oh,
you know.
cool.
Oh yeah. Touch on that.
Okay, so
All the terrain is interactive.
yes.
Okay.
So you can't have the Hulk grab a dumpster and just pitch it into, Miles Morales' head, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Because that's comic books.
So once we have our scenario picked out by creating our mission with our crisis cards, and we've picked our squads from our roster, we then set up and we begin to play the game. So a game lasts 6 rounds or until one player scores 16 victory points. And again, you're going to score points based on the objectives.
How many hours do you think something like that could go, like
It's,
average?
it's typically, once you understand the rules and stuff, it's a pretty fast game, and that was one of our goals. So it's anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So, obviously, as Marvel, kids can definitely play this game, correct?
So the game is 14 plus because it does require a lot of assembly as a hobby product. So you're using clippers and knives and glue to build these plastic model or miniature kits that are on a frame, and then you're painting them and stuff. So the rules, we wanted the rules to be very accessible and fun, but the nature of the product is that it is a 14 plus game. So it's great for older kids to play with their parents and enjoy the hobby together.
That's awesome. Because even with 60 to 90 minutes, for even a 14-year-old, I mean, their attention span is still like, I want to go and do something else now. And if you have, and it's awesome to have a game that you can engage with the family. And I'm
Absolutely.
assuming as a parent, you can
Oh.
you can also go younger if you want, right?
100%.
It's about knowing your limits, right?
Yeah.
And knowing what you can play, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what exactly are those little tiles now?
So once we've set up the game, there are a couple of other things that happen. So every character that we pick has a stat card. Each stat card has two sides. So one of the things that happens, if you're any kind of superhero fan, you know that the heroes typically get beat up, they fall down, then they get back up.
When was Peter Parker the best? When his back was against the wall, right?
Right.
So every character in the game has a healthy and an injured side. Every character starts on its healthy side. These tokens right here with the little slashing marks, these are damage tokens. So as you take damage through the game, you're going to place tokens on top of the character. When a character takes damage equal to its stamina, which is this little health line here, it becomes dazed if it's on its healthy side, or it becomes KO'd, knocked out if it's on its injured side. So what happens is when you become dazed at the end of the round, you flip over to your injured side, you stand back up, and you're ready to go again. So it's pretty hard. The goal of the game was to make it so that, again, because we wanted it to be about the story and we wanted it to be about the tales, it's pretty difficult to just wipe your opponent off the table, right? And typically that's not how the game is going to go. You're going to have a couple characters that might get knocked out, but overall everyone's going to end based on the scenario, because that's how you win. You win by scoring those points and doing the table together. So the green tokens are kind of the other part of the game that's really interesting and sets it apart in all of the hobby miniatures games in terms of game mechanics. So these are called power tokens. So another really big thing that we wanted, in addition to kind of that dynamic story and mission selection, as well as the squad construction, was we wanted to really create a system that made you feel like you were controlling extraordinary individuals, that you were in control of Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, and you could see them get on the ropes and explode back with a bunch of force and power, and just be cool, right? And the other big thing is that, it's always fun when you have a resource to kind of manage, because it gives you different options and strategies and tactics that you can use. And it becomes a question of like, okay, well, I could do this now, but if I do that, then I can't save up for this. And it forces these really fun choices on what you want to do in the game. So characters gain power in a couple different ways. Primarily, they gain power when they take damage. So every time an enemy deals a point of damage to a character, that character gains a power.
Okay.
This is really cool because as Ultron starts to beat up Captain Marvel, and he's punching and punching and punching, yeah, she's taking damage, but she's going to have a ton of power to come back at him with rocket punches, with binary forms. Like, she's going to have an explosive turn. So it provides this kind of ebb and flow of, you're never, when you're on the ropes, you have that push that you can come back, and you get to do this really awesome thing, and maybe it swings it in your favor.
So it's like an adrenaline rush, pretty
Yeah.
much at that point. That's
Exactly.
Cool.
Characters can also gain power through attacks. So certain attacks on their cards do have special rules that say this character gains power equal to the damage, or if this attack is simply used, you might gain a power, stuff like that. So power is spent in a couple of different ways. The first way is every character typically has one big attack, and these attacks cost them power. So for example, like Unleash the Cube by Red Skull cost him 4 power. But it has a strength of 7, whereas his normal attack has a strength of 5, so he gets to roll out more dice. That attack also has a number of special rules that make it really cool. It can like send characters flying across the table. It can do all kinds of stuff.
I wanna
Again,
send
very
someone flying
Marvel
across
and
the
super,
table.
right? And then the other thing that power is almost always used for is every character, of course, has superpowers, right? These are super-powered individuals. They need to have their superpowers. And the superpowers really help define the character. So for example, like our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has a couple of superpowers. One is web line, so he can spend 2 powers to shoot a web and yank an enemy towards him or towards one of his friends, so that he can get you out of position. He can pull you off an extremist console, or he can set you up so that Captain Marvel can come in and punch you in the face, that kind of stuff. He's got Web-a-Pull, so this kind of ties into the thing Dallas was talking about. The other thing, in addition to the power mechanic that sets the game really apart, is pretty much everyone's favorite part, is the fact that in most tabletop miniatures games, the terrain is static. It's there for set dressing. It's very cool. It sets the stage, and it provides obstacles that you have to move around, that you have to deal with, and that will block your line of sight.
Okay.
So that you can't see somebody behind a giant building, right?
Right.
It does all that stuff in our game too. But the big thing is like I've never read a comic where there's been a fight where something hasn't been picked up and thrown.
Right.
Or somebody hasn't crashed into something and had it be destroyed on top of them.
Yeah.
Right? So we knew that in order to get that Marvel flavor and feel, that had to be part of the game. So we created a pretty simple, straightforward system that sacrifices none of the fun, that allows characters to use superpowers to grab terrain or to grab other characters and hurl them across the field and send them flying into other characters or into terrain, all that stuff. So as the game progresses, the battlefield actually becomes less densely populated with terrain because everything's getting thrown into people and it's getting knocked over. So Web-a-Pull, for instance, is Spider-Man's way to do that. He can shoot a web, grab a dumpster, swing it around, and throw it into your face.
Just like in the comics.
Just like in the
I
comics.
like that.
Yeah.
So what are the dice for?
right.
I'm addicted to dice.
Addicted to
Any
dice.
kind of dice. I'm a child when it comes to it. I like the sound when they click against each other. So
Exactly.
what
So-
do these ones do?
So most, in fact, I would say like all tabletop miniatures games, all games in general need a resolution mechanic, right? Most typically that is dice. There are some other ones out there. We decided to use dice. But again, one of the things we wanted to do with our dice is we wanted to make them kind of unique, and we wanted to help them let players tell the story or to see the story unfold on the tabletop. So what we did is we made unique sided D8s, and each symbol kind of represents a different thing that happens in the story or in the game.
Okay.
So the big exclamation point explosion, that's a critical, right?
Okay.
And if you play D&D or anything like that, like role-playing games in general, you know that a critical is like super awesome.
Right.
This means that like your blow really connected or something really went your way. In Marvel Crisis Protocol, the way that happens is everything's an opposed dice roll. So for example, when Captain America wants to attack Red Skull with his shield throw, he looks at the strength of the attack, he rolls that many dice, and he's looking for crits, hits, wilds, and then Red Skull, if he's being attacked, looks at his defense that matches the attack type that's being done to him.
Okay.
And then he rolls that many dice, and he's looking for blocks and wilds. Whoever, if the attacker winds up with more, you deal a point of damage for every point you're over the defender's total. If the defender is equal to or greater than the attacker's total, he manages to avoid the attack and takes no damage. So crits are really cool because, like I said, these are like the perfectly timed attack, perfectly timed dodge, whatever it is. If you roll a crit in your initial roll, so the first time you roll the dice, because there's multiple like roll stages, and we'll talk about this a little bit, you get to add another dice to your roll.
Oh,
Now, if you roll another crit after you've rolled your initial dice, you don't add more dice.
Okay.
So they only pop once, basically.
Okay.
So it can't get ridiculous. You can't like roll 50 dice because you're just on the hottest of streaks in Vegas.
You're looking at the opponent. You're
Exactly.
like, I need your
Just like-
dice
just
now.
like, come on, this is silly. I've only got an hour. I don't have time for this. So
Right.
they explode once, but it's still really cool, and that works for defense and offense. And a lot of times, scenarios will have things where you have to interact with them, and they might require a crit to be rolled, which shows that you succeeded at whatever, hacking a computer or things like that.
Okay.
The next symbol is hits. So when you're attacking, you want hits, right? These are just the solid, we've landed blows. Great. The next symbol is like this little swirly symbol. That's called a wild. So wilds count for successes for both attacking and defending. And they also have this really cool effect in the game where a lot of abilities trigger off of wilds. So this is like the character unlocking their special ability. So for example,
Explosive.
like explosive on Iron Man's homing rockets. If he manages to roll a wild in his attack, regardless of whether it succeeds or not,
Right.
in terms of doing damage, he gets to unlock that ability. And explosive says that everyone within range of the target takes a point of damage. So it's like his rocket's like exploding. They don't always explode right, so the wild is there. Or certain characters like Black Widow, when she punches you with her electrified Widow Sting, if she rolls a wild, she might steal a power from you. She might knock a power off because she's electrocuting you and you're getting kind of dazed and weakened.
Right.
So wilds are kind of that narrative thing where like the ability's being unlocked and things are going right. And then we have blocks. Those are pretty simple. That's just defending, right? You're blocking the attack. There are a couple of blanks on the dice, so these mean nothing. They're just like, they're not successes, they're not really failures. And then last but not least, there's this skull, and the skull is a failure. So this is like a fumble in role-playing games, that kind of thing. This means that something went horribly awry.
Okay.
So fails are always not successes, right? That's just how they are. You failed. But in addition, after you've rolled your dice, there's a lot of abilities in the game and superpowers that allow you to re-roll or modify dice. So this is kind of like how those superpowers get influenced. If we go back to our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he has a superpower that's always on called Spider Sense, right?
Right.
Spider-Man has Spider Sense. What that does is it says that whenever he's attacked by a physical or an energy attack, after he makes his defense roll, he can re-roll 2 dice. So once you start diving into the deep math, it means that Spider-Man is very hard to hit with those types of attacks. But if he rolls a lot of failures, he can't modify the dice. So it's like he slipped on a banana peel and the Spider Sense didn't work out for him, right?
Right.
So failures are something that you never really want to see because you can't do anything to them. They just lock you into a fail. And that's how the dice go. So you can kind of like use those symbols to kind of imagine how the action is playing out. If you roll a lot of crits, it was really successful. You roll a lot of fails, you're like, oh, you totally flubbed it. Or maybe it's just a normal back and forth roll. Again, it was really designed to make the math of the game work and the crunch, but we wanted to make sure that there was that ability to tell a story with how things worked because it was so important to us to get that part right.
How many dice would normally someone be able to roll during a turn?
So if you're the Hulk and you're really angry and everything goes right, you can go over 10 dice. But typically, the biggest attacks are somewhere between 6 to 7 dice. And most normal attacks are between 4 to 6.
Okay.
And 6 is really impressive. 5 is like you're a superhuman. You got really good strength. And then 4 is like your average, like I'm in peak physical condition. I can hit really hard. And it varies. And again, and one of the things that really impacts it is how much power you're able to spend, because a lot of abilities require power to increase that. So if a character has 10 power, like we talked about that super turn, for the Hulk to really punch you as hard as possible, a lot of things have to go your way, and you have to spend a lot of power to get there. But when you do, it's like super awesome because you basically are almost guaranteed to one-shot the person.
Nice.
So that's kind of the ebb and flow. And of course, your opponent always has counterplay because there are reaction superpowers. Like, for example, Captain America has 2 reaction superpowers. He has Vibranium Shield, which lets him use the shield to gain 2 additional defense dice.
Yeah, let's see.
And then he has a reaction called Bodyguard. So we know that Captain America is all about protecting his teammates, protecting the innocent. So Bodyguard kind of represents that. So when one of his teammates is attacked, he can hop in the way. So he can spend 2 power to jump in the way, take the hit for them, and then if he has 2 more power, he can use that to use Vibranium Shield and bump up his defense. So
Very Captain America.
Very Captain America, right? And that's the goal. We wanted every character to really feel like the character that it represents.
That the gamer is used to either seeing within the comic
Exactly.
or the movie world.
It was
that
really
personality.
important to see that personality come through, not just in the miniature itself. And we spent a lot of time talking about the posing. See Ultron's right in the middle of his soliloquy, his monologuing, because that's what he does. It's like the classic image of Ultron. You've got Red Skull
These are my
enthralled by the
favorites.
power of the cosmic cube.
Doc Ock just looks so smug with his science
He
brain.
does, yes.
So that kind of comes into play, and that's how the stat cards work. So the last part is that the game uses tools in order to measure things.
Okay.
So you have these little bendy tools. These are how you use movement. So whenever you move a character, they have a speed stat. It can be short, medium, or long. The letter on the little symbol corresponds to that. So for example, our Red Skull friend here, he moves medium. So when you want to move him as an action, you simply place the tool in base with him. You can bend it however you want. And then you simply move him along the tool, and you can place him anywhere in base contact with the tool. So you can go all the way to the end of the tool. You can end up over here. You can stop here. You can do whatever you want. And that's all it takes to move.
Okay.
If you wind up, so in the game, you can move over things that are similar sizes as you without any penalty. But if you want to, say, climb up a building, then you simply always use the short movement tool, and that allows you to just simply scale the building. And it doesn't matter how big the building is, because again, we kind of use that superhero abstraction. A big 2-story building versus like the little Daily Bugle, it's just going to make you move short. You're going to hop up it. It's going to be fine.
Okay.
Right? Everything was about keeping the game fast and keeping the action focused.
Right.
So you don't have to do any like weird like diagonal movements or stuff.
Okay.
And then these are range tools. So every attack has a range. It's denoted by a little target icon on the attack, and it's just simply 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the 1, it doesn't have a tool, but it's always the width of the movement tool.
Oh, okay.
So you can use any tool for the 1, and then everything
So-
else is simply just place it in based contact and see if it overlaps and if it touches your target. So for example, Captain Marvel is within range 3 of Red Skull, but she is not within range 2 of Red Skull.
I see.
Yeah.
Nice. Can you guys play just a quick
Oh yeah.
little
So
game?
now
Yeah,
that
I
we
wanna
have
see what
we
it
have
looks
burned
like.
through all of the general concepts, we'll go through a couple of turns.
Yes,
And we'll
please.
see how things work. And we'll let you roll some dice because you said you love rolling dice.
do.
So we'll let you roll as many dice
It's
as
a
possible.
sick addiction. I can't help it.
We all have it. We all
It's like
have it.
my own ASMR, you know?
That'd be the best one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like that's the one I'm waiting for on YouTube. It's just like somebody like
Yeah.
rolling dice,
Oh,
holding
just-
them in their hands. Like,
On a
Can you
dice
just
tower
do
is what
that?
they need,
Oh.
so you just drop them. You're like, oh, yes, drop them.
exactly.
Can the microphone pick that up?
See?
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let Dallas go first.
Oh, boy.
We're gonna say that we're in the middle of a game. So the first thing that happens in a round
Okay.
is called the power phase.
Okay.
So every character that you have generates 1 power. So they just get a power at the start of the round.
Perfect.
There might be other effects that happen in the power phase depending on what's going on. For example, if you have a cosmic cube fragment, it will deal you a point of damage because the energies of it are so powerful it starts to burn you.
Oh.
But because of that power, you actually gain another power. So you kind of get a trade-off with the cosmic cube. And this was another way of like injecting. Like I said, we wanted every objective to feel like it had impact on the game. So one of the cool things about this matching of scenarios is that the cosmic cube fragments damage you but give you extra power, and the extremist consoles can actually you can spend the power to heal yourself. So if you want to, you can kind of try to negate the damage out from the cosmic cubes, or you can use the extremist consoles to heal your guys, or you can just go full out and just be like, I'm going to pick up all the cosmic cubes and just attack as much as possible. So we've started our round, we've done our power up phase, we then go to the activation phase. So during the activation phase, every character is going to get a chance to activate.
Okay.
When a character activates, it gets to do 2 actions. And it also gets to use any superpowers that aren't actions if it wants to and has the power to spend. So an action in the game is pretty straightforward. There are 4 different types of actions. The most common are move, which just simply means you move your speed or you climb. You can attack, which is choose an attack on your character card and roll the dice and resolve it like normal. You can shake. So there are a lot of attacks in the game that will put special conditions on you. For example, there's a bleed, where if you have bleed on you and you do your activation, you still have bleed at the end of it, you'll take a damage point
Okay.
because you're kind of like weakening, right? There's stun, which slows your power gain rate. Like basically you're kind of dizzy or you've been electrified or something like that, and you can't gain power as fast. And then last, there are certain objectives that require you to spend actions in order to do the thing that you need to do in order to do stuff.
Okay.
You can do any combination of the actions in any way you want. So you could move twice, you could attack twice, you could move and attack, you could shake, attack, all that stuff.
And that's just the beginning. Is that every turn?
That's every turn
Awesome.
when the character gets activated. After the character has done its actions, it basically has activated for that turn, so it doesn't get to go again until the next round.
Okay.
And you take turns with your opponent, basically activating a character at a time until every character is gone. At that point, the round ends, you go to a cleanup phase, you score your points, you do anything else that happens in the cleanup phase, and then you go back to the power phase for the new round.
Okay. Well, let's see this.
Let's see it in
I want to
action.
see it in
Easy
action.
Absolutely.
game. Easy game.
Someone better throw someone across the table.
Oh,
Ooh, I think we can make that
It's
happen.
gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna activate Captain America,
Okay.
and he moves medium, so I'm gonna move to there. And then because I have 2 actions, I'm gonna go ahead and just take another move. I'm gonna go to right there. And I'm gonna spend 1 power, and he's gonna pick up a cosmic cube fragment.
All right, so
Ha-ha. Done. My
Ha-ha.
turn's done.
All right.
all right, so we are going to have Captain Marvel go. She is going to fly over to here, and then I'm going to do what's called an interact. So I want to pick up this cosmic cube fragment. So an interact is something that you can do with an objective. It's not an action, but it does cost 1 power. So I'm going to spend my power to interact with the Cosmic Cube fragment, and I'm within range 1 of it. So I just pick it up, and I put it on Captain Marvel's card. Now she has a Cosmic Cube fragment.
Okay.
That was
So-
much more succinct.
Then what I'm going to do, because I have an action left, is I'm going to Energy Blast Senior Doc Ock. So I'm within range 4.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to do an attack now. So we're going to look at Energy Blast. We know it's range 4 because of the stat card.
Okay.
We look at the dumbbell sign, which is the strength. That tells us how many dice we're going to get to roll. So we get to roll 4 dice.
Oh, okay. So I was about to ask, how many dice do you know? Okay.
So yeah,
Cool.
when the attack strength is always the dumbbell on the attack bar.
Okay.
And you'll see that it's a yellow symbol. So attacks in the game, we divided into 3 different types. There's
Okay.
physical, which is a red fist.
Right.
There's energy, which is the yellow swirly. And then there's mystical, which is the blue-purple eye.
Okay.
So every character has 3 different defense stats, 1 for each type.
Okay.
So what happens is we're going to energy blast Doc Ock. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to make an energy blast against you. Shockingly enough, the damage type is energy. So Dallas is going to look at Doc Ock's stat card. He's going to look for his energy defense, and he's going to tell us it
I
is
have 3.
3. All right, so we're going to roll our dice now.
Better hope I get blanks.
Go for crits. Oh,
Oh, we got 2?
Oh my gosh, this is perfect. You could have done better. All right.
Yay.
So the first thing that's going to happen
So
is
exciting.
you are going to roll as the attacker. You
Okay.
will roll an extra die for every crit in your initial roll. So you have 2 crits.
2 crits.
So you get to roll 2 extra dice.
Gotcha.
here they go.
All right, so we got a blank and a fail. And now Dallas, if he had any crits, he would roll his crits as well.
I do not.
But he does not.
I have a wild.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our modify step. So remember I said that there are a lot of abilities in the game that allow you to reroll or change the face of a die.
Okay.
If we look at Energy Blast, it has a special rule that says after this attack is resolved, this character gains 1 power. So you're just going to generate 1 power from Energy Blasting.
Okay.
And then this character may reroll any number of attack dice for this attack. So you get to reroll every dice that isn't a success, that is also not a fail. Because remember, you cannot modify failures. So these 2 you can't change.
Okay.
However, the blank and the block you get to pick up and reroll.
Okay.
Here we go.
So you got a wild, which is great because that's another success.
Okay.
So you went from having 2 successes because you had 2 crits to having 3 successes because you got to reroll all your dice.
Nice. I like that.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to compare your total versus the defender's total. So Dallas got 1 and you got 2, or you got 3. So you're going to deal 2 points of damage.
Okay.
So Dallas is going to take 2 damage tokens and put them on Doc Ock. And then because you damaged him twice, he gets 2 power.
Bloop, bloop.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
And then because
So we're getting a little aggro. Pretty
Correct.
I'm building up that aggro. Building up that aggro.
All
and
right.
of course, Energy Blast said after the attack is resolved, which it is because Dallas doesn't have anything that he can do in response.
I do not.
For example, Black Widow has a reaction superpower called Counter Strike. So after the attack is resolved, she can spend 2 power and immediately attack you back.
Oh, so like you said, reacting to
Yep.
what just happened
Yep.
to her. Okay.
And so the way that you can tell what type of a superpower is there are different symbols on the superpowers. And so there's active, reactive, and innate. Innates are always on. You don't pay any cost for them.
Okay.
Active superpowers you can only use when your superhero is activated.
Okay.
So for example, binary form, Captain Marvel can only use when she's activating. She can't use it in reaction to anything.
Oh, okay.
And then Counter-Strike has the little like spider sense lightning bolt symbols. Those are reactive powers. That means that you can use them whenever the trigger is met. So for Counter-Strike, for example, it says after an attack against this character is resolved, it can use this superpower.
Okay.
And then she gets to counter-strike you and try to knock you out for daring to try to attack her.
Using her.
So we've done our
Skills.
2 actions with Captain Marvel, and we interacted, which wasn't an action. So we're going to be done with Captain Marvel. She will have activated. And now we'll go to Dallas's turn, and I bet Doc Ock is probably going to wind up throwing a dumpster at us.
Oh yeah. Most
Oh,
likely.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's see.
Let's see what happens here. So I'm gonna look at Doc Ock because I do want to do this, and he has what's called Ox Clutches. So choose an interactive terrain feature or enemy character. So that's terrain or character. That's
Okay.
awesome. Both of size 2 or less and within range 3. So I'm just gonna measure and see what's within range 3. So I can choose either, even that. So I can choose any one of these.
An important note, you can never target your allied characters with attacks or abilities that don't say allied. So Doc Ock, even though he might be kind of nefarious, will never throw Captain America if they're on the same team.
I see. Okay.
And then it's going to cost.
Well, so the other important part is that when you throw,
Oh, yeah.
it only goes a certain distance. So it can go short, medium, and long because throws are a movement.
Okay.
The big thing with throws are you can't bend the widget. So it always has to
It
be
has-
perfectly straight. So I believe Doc Ock's throw is short.
It's short, so I need to
So
look.
he needs to take a look. You can pre-measure anything you want in this
Which I'm
game.
not going to be close enough.
So he's not going to be close enough. So the first thing he's going to want to do is move up.
Let's move to. Let's see.
Little
A
closer.
little closer, you think so? Right there. That's good.
Little closer.
No, that's totally within short, isn't it? Okay,
That is.
All right.
All right.
So, now I'm going to spend my 3 power,
Yep.
and I'm going to pick up that dumpster and throw it at Captain Marvel.
So what happens when he interacts with the terrain feature to throw it is that he just simply takes the terrain feature off the table. It's destroyed.
Okay.
There's no like kind of slowly throwing a car
Boom.
across the table. It just goes away. He places the movement template in base with himself in any direction he wants. If it touches a character or another terrain feature, it immediately collides with it. So collisions are kind of cool because what happens is that character that gets collided with takes damage equal to the size of whatever hit it plus 1. So the dumpster is size 2.
Okay.
Plus 1.
So plus 1. So he just does 3 damage.
Okay.
There's no roll. It's just 3 damage. Now Captain Marvel is obviously smart enough not to just stand in place as a dumpster comes at her. She's going to try to dodge.
Right.
So to do a dodge roll, it's similar to a defense roll, but it is a unique roll. So you're going to look at your physical defense, which is 3,
Okay.
and you're going to roll 3 dice. So you're looking for crits, wilds, and blocks.
Okay.
And if you roll any crits, you will get to add an extra die to your roll.
Okay. You want
So
me
go
to
ahead
roll
and,
it?
yeah, do it. Grab
right.
3
I
dice.
was gonna say that's 3, right? Yep.
Yeah, it is 3.
All right. Let's see.
All right, so we did pretty good because we
Wow.
have 2 wilds and a hit.
Yay.
What that means is that you block 2 of the damage or you avoid 2 of the damage.
Okay.
So you're going to take 1 damage, and because an enemy damaged you with an effect, you're going to gain a power.
I like that. Okay.
Now, the cool thing about that superpower is it's not an action. So he still has an action left.
Oh, yeah.
So now
Okay.
he can use his noodly arms and start attacking you. with your
Strike!
arms.
Okay, so these are range 3, which I'm totally in.
Yep. There's
we
like
know.
0 problem there. So
Zero.
Ox got some really good reach on it.
And these are strength 4, and they are physical.
Okay.
So again, you're going to look at your physical defense. It's a 3. So you're going to grab 3 dice.
Oh. Okay.
Yep. And you're going to roll them. And again, you're looking for crits, wilds, and blocks.
Hiya!
All right. So we got 1. So we have 1 block.
Okay.
And then we got a hit and a blank, and those don't do any good for us.
Okay.
And Dallas got 2 hits and a wild.
The wild's important.
And wild's important because Doc Ock has a special ability that says,
Flurry of arms. When making this attack, each wild in the attack counts as 2 successes. So that's 4.
so
Wow,
he got
okay.
4 successes on his attack. You got 1 block. So Captain Marvel is going to take 3 damage. She's going to gain 3 power.
And I, because it was my strike, and it says after this attack is resolved, this character gains 1 power equal to the number of damage dealt. So I'm also going to gain 3 power, right? 3.
All right.
All right. So Doc Ock has now done his 2 his 2 actions. Right. He moved and he attacked. He has no other superpowers that he can use at this point because his throw is only once per turn.
Okay.
So his activation is going to end, and then it'll come back
To you.
to us. So what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to show some of the other cool things about the game. We're going to have Red Skull go. He is going to, yep, this is our Red Skull right here, looking all maniacal and crazy. Or we could have Spider-Man go. Yeah, well, let's do Spider-Man. Let's do another throw. Let's show how a character gets thrown. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to have Spider-Man advance. So he's going to advance to there using the long tool because that's his speed. He's very quick. He's got the webs. He can swing, right? And we're going to go ahead and we're going to strike Ock. So our strike is range 2. Definitely within. So we're going to look at our strength. It is 5. So you're going to roll 5 dice.
Ooh, okay.
And this is physical.
And this is physical.
So Doc Ock has physical 4.
So Dallas does very well. You also did really well. So you're going to get to roll 1 extra die for
We
the
both
crit.
got 1 crit.
All right, so Dallas is just going to dice you here. So
Wilds all day.
You
he
got me.
he got all of it. So you got 4 and you got 3 because 2 hits and a crit.
Okay.
It's hard to punch somebody in the face with all those noodly arms in the way.
But we're going to go
Right.
ahead and say that you did 1 damage to him at least. So you gained a power
Okay.
because this is important.
I guess
We're
I'm
not-
going to take my
We're- yeah,
damage
you're gonna take
and
your
my
damage.
power.
You're gonna take your damage and you're gonna be happy about it. So now we're gonna look and we see that we have Webapult, and we're just gonna pretend like Spider-Man had 3 power on him so that we can show how a character is thrown.
Okay.
So look what happened. Boom. This is the best part. Never expect this again, because failure will actually matter in the real game. But because we're just having fun showing things, we're gonna do that. So Spider-Man is gonna go ahead and he's gonna spend 3 power. And you're going to do Webapult. So you get to grab an enemy character of size 2 or less, or you can grab a terrain feature within range 3, because you're kind of like webbing it, right? And then you get to throw it. So our options are we could throw Doc Ock and he would go crashing into Captain America, or we could grab this dumpster and send it hurtling into Doc Ock.
Ah.
We're going to throw Doc Ock.
Doc Ock,
Okay.
he's only got 2 more hit points left.
So Ock goes flying back, and the second that he contacts a piece of terrain or another character, stops. The character that got thrown, if he collides with anything, he just takes 1 damage.
Okay.
He still gains his power because he was thrown by an enemy effect, so the damage came from us. So he's going to gain another power, but he takes an automatic damage.
Okay.
Captain America is going to suffer a collision just like if we had thrown a dumpster into him. So we're going to look at Doc Ock's size, which is 2. We're going to add 1 to it, so he takes a total of 3 damage.
Okay.
And Captain America gets to use his physical defense to try to avoid the damage. So he's
Okay.
going to roll 4 dice because Cap's got a great physical defense. thanks
Physical
to his
4.
robust physique and shield. And he's going to get
Nice.
1, 2,
Nice.
and then he gets to roll 1 for the crit. So he's got
Nice.
3. Dallas is just on fire. So Cap
Yes.
completely avoids the damage.
Okay.
And that's how you throw a character.
All right.
If a character collides with a piece of terrain that is a smaller size than it, for example, had we thrown Doc Ock into the lamppost, which is size 1, the lamppost gets destroyed. He just crushes it.
Okay.
And he still takes his 1 damage.
And that gets removed from the board at
Yep,
that time.
and that gets removed from the board because it got destroyed.
Okay. Well, I want to play this game now. With
Well,
my
we got
kid,
one more thing,
so-
Sean.
Oh,
Can we
show
show
me,
one more thing?
please.
Do you have my
absolutely.
card? Yeah, my
Absolutely.
card.
I don't have
That's
Repulsor
not-
Blast. I've got 1, 2.
We're going to pretend this is
All right,
a
we're gonna
card.
pretend.
So we're going to pretend this is because these cards are super important.
Okay, yeah.
These
all
are your
right.
team tactic cards. And so you have a hand of these, and you can only play the card once per game.
Okay.
And they are those super feats or those super cinematic moments, like in the comic books, where sometimes where your characters come together to do something really awesome. So this is 1-2 punch, which is really cool. But I really want to do Ricochet Blast. So we're gonna pretend.
We're gonna pretend that this is Ricochet Blast. So Ricochet Blast is a tactic card that requires Iron Man and Captain America.
Okay.
So what Iron Man's gonna do
So you gotta
is
move
he's
up.
going to activate. He doesn't even probably need to
It's
move,
range
right?
3,
4?
isn't it? Oh, it's range 4.
4.
Yep.
So Iron Man's gonna activate.
Okay.
Bloop.
Ricochet Blast says that he and Captain America need to spend 2 power each to play it. So he's going to
Oh.
spend.
2 power?
So each of them are going to spend 2 power. Now the card gets activated. So Ricochet Blast specifically.
Discard it.
Yep. So he discards it because he only gets to use it once. So Ricochet
Okay.
Blast says that Iron Man may use the Ricochet Blast attack, and there's a special attack that's listed on the card. It allows Dallas to roll 6 dice. He gets to re-roll any dice in the attack roll. And the really cool thing about it is that you'll notice that we have Captain America and Iron Man. So what's happening here? Well, as in the comics, Iron Man is shooting towards Cap's shield and Cap is directing it for him. So as long as Iron Man is within range 4 of Cap, which he is, you then measure the attack from Captain America. So Iron Man can now target Captain Marvel or Spider-Man. And we're going to have him target Captain Marvel because we want to show her cool innate superpower. before
Well,
we're
I was
done.
gonna ask too, because I know that in the Marvel world they like to team up in little
Yes.
pairs and
Yep.
do cool things with each other. And that answers that question. That is
Yeah.
really cool that you get that option too within the
Yep.
game. You could-
And so
yeah.
the way that the team tactic cards work is when you build that roster of 10 characters and you choose your crisis cards, you also choose 8 team tactic cards. And then when you build your squad, you get to choose 5 of those 8 to use in the game.
Okay.
So you do have flexibility in how that works as well.
So at what point, before we get there, at what point is it that you would trade, if the backup team that you have, do you trade one
No,
out
they
for the other?
don't. They don't swap back in and out. So
Okay.
effectively, you just choose your squad from your 10, and then when we played another game, you could choose a different set of 10.
I see. Okay.
Or for a different set from that 10.
Okay.
Right. There is they don't necessarily tag in and out.
Okay.
Maybe someday, or maybe there'll be a scenario or something that allows that. But for the base standard, it doesn't happen.
Get a little wrestling on
Correct.
it.
Little,
We'll tag
little
in.
Yeah.
video game tag and stuff. So Repulsor Blast is going to happen. We're going to go ahead and target Captain Marvel.
Yep.
So we're going to get 6 dice. Captain Marvel's energy defense is 4.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and roll 4 dice for her.
Ooh.
All right, we're going to do this. Watch this. And then you got a crit, so you get to roll 1 more.
Okay.
So go ahead and add that to your roll.
I got 4.
So we got 4. Okay.
Another
we got
crit.
crit, but you don't get to
Sorry.
reroll
One's a
it.
crit.
Okay, that's right.
So I'm going to add my crit, and then I can re-roll up to 2.
No.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
All right. So Dallas has 6.
Okay.
You have 4. It's really good. However, Dallas made a huge tactical mistake. He shot Captain Marvel with an energy attack. Captain Marvel has an innate ability called energy absorption. So if you know anything about Carol Danvers in the comic, right,
yes.
you don't want to shoot her with energy because she really likes that.
Yeah.
So energy absorption says whenever she's defending against an energy attack, for each wild in the defense roll, they may change one of the attacker's crits, wilds, or hits to a blank. So go ahead and just change 2 of those dice to a blank because we've got 2 wilds.
It's pretty
But we're
good.
not done. This character gains 1 power for each die changed in this way. So we're just going to go ahead and add 2 power to Captain Marvel because she just absorbed
She's took
2
it
of
all
those
in.
successes.
She's powerful.
She's a powerful and fierce captain.
Yes, she is.
So now you'll notice that Dallas's results. He's got 4. He went from 6 to 4,
Yeah.
and you have 4.
now
Captain Marvel
it's evened
has
out a little
evened
bit.
out, and Captain Marvel takes no damage from the attack.
Oh, okay.
And Iron Man Captor just sitting there like, oh no. We done messed up.
So we would continue activating our characters. We would then go to the cleanup phase. So we would have Ultron left, and we would have Black Widow and Red Skull. Iron Man still has another action as well, so he could potentially do something. Once all of our characters had activated, we would go to the cleanup phase, and we would start counting up our points. So for example, if Red Skull had come here and picked up a cube fragment, and Black Widow had come here to hold this, and maybe Ultron had flown over here to capture that, and Iron Man had moved over.
Okay.
You get 1 point for every cube fragment you hold. And you get 1 point for every extremist console that you have more characters around than your opponent. So conceivably, Dallas scores 3 points and we score 4.
Okay, so it's not a big deal that he's got some of them and you got
Nope.
some of them.
Nope.
It's just whoever has more of
Yep,
them.
you're just gonna
is the
score more
point of the
points.
game. Okay.
Now, what happens now, the way that you get those fragments back is if you daze or knock out a character that's holding them, they drop them, and then you can go take them for yourself.
I see.
Yep.
And so you keep going like that until you hit 16 points. One player gets to 16, or 6 rounds expire, and then the game ends, and whoever has the most victory points wins.
Okay.
And that's kind of in a nutshell, the general overview of the game, how the game plays, and the big kind of selling points and exciting moments of how play goes.
So what we're looking at here, though, in the box that you guys have, there's way more that comes with it, correct?
Yeah, so you're going to get 10 characters. So we played with 8 of the 10. There's also Crossbones and Baron Zemo
Yep.
who come in the box.
Okay.
The core set has enough in it for 1 player to create a full roster, but it also serves as a 2-player experience. So you can take the characters and they split into even teams of 17
Okay.
threat. So you can actually play with your friends, start to learn the game and stuff. Or you can just keep all of it for yourself and you can have a full roster ready to go of 10 characters.
Okay.
It also comes with 9 pieces of terrain. So it comes with the Daily Bugle, 2 dumpsters, 2 cars that you can actually throw around and bash people with. and a light post and the traffic lights as well. So it gives you a nice little start for your terrain collection because obviously, as you see, you want a lot of it on the table to interact with and do cool stuff with.
And hide behind and stuff like that,
Exactly.
right? And then you were saying that there's also an actual
Yeah,
like
so
board with the terrain, like you said.
in a hobby miniatures game, a lot of players will customize their own tabletop playing surface. So you can do anything from just cutting a 3x3 piece of felt. The game is played on a 36x36 square.
Okay.
You can get like a green piece of felt, a gray piece of felt. A lot of people will do that. We're going to do customized art mats that are on neoprene that you can use as a ready play surface, or you can go all out and really model and hobby an amazing board. So
And there's a lot of talented
there's-
people
there's
out
a
there
lot
that I
of
can
talented people out there, for
totally see
sure.
that.
So,
They're
you-
really cool.
The sky's the limit, right? And you can also customize your own terrain. You can do all kinds of stuff. Like it truly is just a hobby, a true hobby experience. You can go as deep or as light as you want to.
So when creating this game, what was your guys' inspiration besides obviously your love
Sure.
for comics and
Yeah.
Marvel? Like what inspired you to create it in this kind of setting with the terrains and the miniatures? Like what's your guys' inspirations?
So the big thing is I've been playing miniatures games for over 25 years. Dallas is playing miniatures games for over 30. We have a ton of love and passion for the hobby. And the big thing was that we really wanted to emphasize with Atomic Mass, just in general, anything that we make, but the game especially, was that social interaction of fun, right?
Yeah.
Like getting to sit across the table and enjoy the things that you've worked really hard on making, and to see yourself grow and progress in the hobby. These are yours. They're the cool thing about the hobby in general is that you get to customize, your characters, your table, everything, and it becomes uniquely yours. They're your pieces of art. They're expressions of you.
Yep.
And that's really cool. And it leads to this lifelong pursuit of not being the best, but of like growing and seeing like how your skills can progress and just having fun telling stories with your friend across the table. And so that was like really the essence that we wanted to capture. We wanted something that was just going to be an enjoyable, like amazing storytelling experience that also had, that battle of tactics and strategy, and you could fight it out, you could see things unfold,
Right.
and then you could come back and do it again. And then of course I think the other big thing was just to make, the best and most inspiring hobby miniatures that we could, because
Good job.
they are really kind of the centerpiece, the focal point of everything. And we wanted to do justice to the amazing characters, but more than that, we wanted to make sure that people had, the best experience with assembly, with painting, that they had something they could really just dive into, lose themselves in, and enjoy.
So when you first get it, I could see over there that
yeah.
I'm assuming that's the Hulk, correct?
Oh,
is
good
the Hulk.
call. Yeah, that
Yes,
is the Hulk.
that chest. It's the chest
I know.
that gave it away.
It's very robust.
Where's the camera? Where we at? Right here? So this has been cut off the frame, so it'd come on a regular,
Square,
Right, like
rectangle frame.
I hate to compare, but like Warhammer type of
Yeah,
deal,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
just like that.
That's exactly what you're looking at.
And so this has been clipped off, and I've started to put them together, but I haven't gotten very far because it's been a busy weekend. And you can just see these different parts, and they go together amazingly. Well, if I can locate it, so you can see it. The camera won't ever be able to see it. So you slide that leg together, and it's just
And it just goes
and it
like
just
that.
explodes.
And
It's
you-
pretty
and-
neat, right?
Because you're supposed to use glue.
You're supposed to use glue, right? And you just like slide together and like just fits.
Yeah, and then you've got a leg.
You got a leg.
You got a leg.
And they
You
all
got a
come like in the
Yeah,
gray
they all,
framing.
they all
and you-
come in. They all come on a frame. The terrain is also hard plastic, so
Yep.
everything is like that.
So for the hardcore hobbyist who likes to really, especially that likes to paint, because I like to paint miniatures
Oh, yeah,
also. That's
absolutely.
one
Sure.
of my favorite things.
Mhm.
And I think whoever painted these, was it you or
These are not me.
Yep.
someone painted, whoever painted these did a great job. But I mean, there's so many different variations of some of these colors that people can go
Oh, yeah.
through, right?
I mean, and you can make absolutely. You can make your own Marvel color scheme, right?
Yeah.
And that's the really cool thing about it. It's like a coloring book, but in 3 dimensions.
And the cool thing is, just Marvel designs are they're just so easy to work with in the first place, and they're very easy to paint. And our goal when we were designing the miniatures and sculpting them is just it's constantly the question of how do you make this easier to paint, and how do you make it cooler, obviously. And everything on the table, all the miniatures are super fun and super easy to paint with any skill level can just make these just look great and just have fun and just like Will said, just make them your own, right? And
Yeah.
Spider-Man, all those little inset lines, those are sculpted in. So just by simply painting him red and then doing a wash,
Yeah.
which do we know what washes are?
I do.
If not, I'll teach you. You just put a wash on it. It'll all get in the webbing. It'll just make it pop out.
You
It's
don't
just
have to
very
sit
quick.
there and like carefully line every
No.
single line and try
No.
to keep your lines straight. And it was one of those things where we really wanted to create a hobby game that, like you talked about earlier, that you could introduce, to your 14-year-old or your family, and you could start really diving in and exploring that. And people who love Marvel but have never picked up a hobby game could pick it up and they could feel confident that they could get good results right away. And we're going to be doing a ton of like support for the game and for the hobby. We're going to have regular live streams where Dallas and I will be on. We'll talk about the game. We'll show people how to paint, how to get the best results out of assembly, all of that stuff, and just hang out and like talk about how to improve your skills, how to get better, how to enjoy the whole process of it.
The objects also come unpainted, correct? And
Yep.
you have an opportunity to
Everything's-
paint
yep.
their
So you
trash
can paint
cans.
your dumpsters in whatever color you want. You can
think we have
paint
Green,
daily
black,
bugle.
yellow.
4 different color dumpsters
Yeah.
in the studio right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
We have a bunch of different
so there's a lot of
colors.
openings. And then outside of the core set, the other really cool thing about Marvel is it has an amazing cast of iconic characters, right?
Right.
So the core set comes with 10 characters, and then we're also doing character expansion packs that'll come out every month. Those include things like Hulk, MODOK. We've got Black Panther and Killmonger, Okoye and Shuri from Wakanda. We have Venom, of course, Spider-Man's best frenemy. We've got these Guardians, so Thor and Loki, Hela.
awesome.
The
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord, Rocket, Groot, Drax, all that good stuff. The Black Order, which are my personal favorite, Corvus Glaive and Proxima Midnight. And a lot of other really cool stuff coming. So we really want to,
Yeah.
So
we're
really
all
keep
in.
your eyes peeled
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're a Marvels fan.
Yeah,
And,
we're all
and
in.
not just the
Hobby game.
characters are coming. We have more terrain coming.
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
yeah.
Okay.
So like, I want to explore Hell's Kitchen, and maybe nowhere, and just how cool would that be, right? Just more terrain and just bigger stuff to blow up and smash and hide around, and just create those big story elements on the table to recreate with your friends.
I just make a request if maybe Jessica Jones can make an
Oh,
appearance one day.
I think that she probably
She's one of my
could.
ultimate
Yeah?
favorites. But
She's
that
a
would
great
be
one.
fun. So for Atomic Mass Games, how is this your guys' first game, or do you guys you have?
So this is our first game for Atomic Mass Games, and it is like our one and only love right now. So all of our effort is focused in on it. We're very thankful and grateful to be able to work with an amazing property and to really just like bring this whole universe to life on the tabletop in miniature form. Yeah. So, but we've been working in like we talked about. We've been working in the industry. The entire studio is formed of veterans who have worked at various other miniatures companies. So we have a lot of experience and a lot of passion for what we do, and we're definitely like pushing the bounds and trying to come up with ways to like just continue to redefine what the genre means and what miniatures can do. In
So
this
it's a very
world.
well-rounded team that you guys are working with to make this
Oh,
happen.
I would.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm personally biased, but I would say it's one of the greatest creative teams in miniature gaming. Period. So but I did like bring
Look
them
at
all
the
on
camera.
board.
Let them know that.
Boom! It's the best. There's zero question. So,
He appreciates you.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really fun ride. We've had an amazing Gen Con so far. Everybody's super excited. We've been doing demos all weekend, and the buzz and the hype is just incredible. And we're really excited to finally share it with the world. And
It's
we've got
been
a
the
lot to live
hardest
up
secret
to.
I've
But
ever
that's like,
kept.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, you're so proud of it too. So imagine
so
having
proud.
to not tell
Oh, yeah.
anybody about it.
It
You're
was
like,
it was
"Oh."
a rough few months.
All right. So before we wrap it up, where can they find you? They're at Gen Con?
So booth 1105, and then you can go online, atomicmassgames.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter at Atomic Mass Games. And then you can also find us on Instagram. We're doing a lot of posting there because obviously it's a very visual medium. And that's atomic_mass_transmissions. And we're posting all kinds of stuff. And like I said, be sure to watch the website. We're going to be posting galleries, more information, and then we're going to start doing a whole bunch of other media stuff as well. So check us out. And the game will release in Q4 this year. So
Well, thank you so much for joining us,
Oh, yeah,
gentlemen.
absolutely.
I appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching. And please make sure you visit their website or come. If you're at Gen Con, come and stop and say hi and find out more if you're a Marvels fan. Thank you.
thank you guys.
Thanks.